Hello, this is your Professor Kendra Crow, and I wanted to take a moment today to talk about how to frame a quotation. For literature courses, I encourage you to use quotations in order to support your theses that you're writing. In your discussion boards, I ask for you to use quotations quite often, and in your formal papers that you write, I ask that as well. This just helps to give authoritative support to whatever ideas that you are presenting in your paper. So I hope you continue to do that. You should continue to do that. And today I just want to talk a little bit about how you properly use quotations in your paper. You don't want to have what's called a floating quotation, which is where you just throw out a quotation without any surrounding information. What you should always do first, the first part of framing the quotation, is to introduce your quotation. So you'll want to say things like how the author states this, or you want to give a little bit of background information as to what this quotation is going to be about or what it's going to say. So I've written something here. It's like a fake paper basically, and it's about how to quote your how to properly frame a quotation and then use it properly and frame your quotation. So I'll read what I have here. In order to frame a quote properly, I'm going to give you an example of how this is done. I would like to show you something that I wrote. I state that. So here is the first part of framing your quotation, where it's saying I state that, or the author states that, or he claims that something. And then you place your quotation in the sentence. So this would be for a short quotation, which is less than 4 lines of typed text. So it says, I state that, quote, this is the quote that I'm using. It is not a real quote, but just a placeholder to simulate a quote. End quote. And then I put my citation, my in-text citation, which is the author's last name and the page number. After the quote that I use, I will add a few sentences of analysis to add my thoughts to the subject. This is very important because a quotation should never stand on its own. You should always frame a quote and never end a paragraph on a quotation. So that last part is the second part of framing the quotation. So you've already introduced your quotation, you place your quotation, and then afterwards you should always say something about that quotation, whether you're giving analysis on that quotation. If it's a long quotation, you might want to give a summary of what that says, so you might want to paraphrase what it says, but it should always, after the quotation, you should be tying it back to your thesis, whatever it is, whatever argument that you're making and that you're using this quote to illustrate. You should then mention that information at the end, and that's the end part of your framing. So that's how you would do it for a short quotation. Down here I've written something, it's a long quotation, and it's the same, similar way that you do it. You introduce your quote, you place your quote, and then you end it with a follow-up, a summary, or an analysis of that quotation. You should never end a paragraph on a quotation. So I wanted to show this to you, not only to show you how to use a long quotation and in block format, but also how you would end the quotation without an indentation going into the last part of your paragraph. So here's an example of a long, I'm going to read now my paragraph that I wrote to show you what I've done. Here's an example of a long quote and how it would look in your paper. Remember that long quotes should be blocked and indented. So I put a colon, and then I skip a line, and I indent the entire quotation. So the indented part, the blocked part, is my quotation. This is an example of a long quote that I've written. This quote is long because it is more than 4 lines of typed quoted material. The direct quote should be indented and set off from the main part of the paragraph. Also, for block quotes, you do not use quotation marks, as the indentation sets it off and indicates a quotation. This information is all listed in the Purdue OWL website as well. So just a little more information on how you use block quotes in your paper. And then again, I have my citation here. So what I want to point out to you here is that because I'm continuing my paragraph from up here, I do not indent this portion. If I were to indent this portion of my following framework of my quote, it would show that I'm changing paragraphs and that I have indeed ended the previous paragraph on a quotation, which I do not want to do. So here I have it not indented. It is off to the left-hand side and it's flush with the rest here. So I'll continue reading here. For your follow-up information, be sure that you do not indent the first line. So that's what I'm talking about here. You want to ensure that you are continuing the same paragraph as you had previously, and that includes the block quote. If you indent, that indicates that you are starting a new paragraph and therefore ending the previous paragraph on a quotation, which you should never do. So once again, for my framework, I have an introduction here. I'm introducing my quote. I'm stating my quote, and it's properly formatted. And then I'm following up with some sort of information about my quote. So here is my follow-up information. It's either analysis, it's summary, it's something. You should never end your quote, or you should never end a paragraph on a quote. And then here, just a note, if for more information on this subject, on framing a quotation, please see this handout at this website, at this web address. And it just gives you some more detailed information about what I mean by introducing and what I mean by following up with analysis. I hope this was helpful in how to frame a quotation, and if you have any questions, as always, feel free to contact me. Thank you.